for this. I need to rest. I can't do it. After falling off the bike, they were only joined by more. Look at the state of your riding. Terrible. You are your own worst nightmare. You can't keep going like this. You're going to crash again and get yourself killed. I cycled despondently, listening to the internal monologue I'd become familiar with over the last year, certain that I just wasn't good enough. It took the team 25 minutes to pack up and get back on the road. When they pulled alongside me, the electric window slowly buzzed down. I looked around into the dark cabin of the motorhome, and, as my eyes adjusted from the bright daylight, I saw Jem's bearded face beaming at me. His shout changed everything. "Hey, mucker! What's the view like from the balcony?" Jem knew exactly what he'd said and why he'd said it. It was a personal quote that Phil and I had hooked our psychological interventions on. The balcony was a metaphor. I stood upon it, or at least future me stood upon it. The Leigh who had finished the attempt. When I faced my toughest challenges, I could look up to the balcony and I could ask for advice, for how to push on through. After all, there was only one person to whom I needed to justify the completion time, and that was myself. Jem's line spurred me to shift focus. A sneer turned into a smirk, and I nodded my head. "You bastard," I shouted, as the smile continued to grow. I eased off the pedals, and the gap between the bike and the support vehicle slowly grew as I looked at my situation through different eyes. All morning I'd had the tailwind I'd been waiting for, praying for, the kind of tailwind that makes or breaks records, but I'd wasted it trundling along in self-pity, thinking about how tired I was and how difficult the challenge had become. I'd lost focus, becoming so wrapped up in adversity that I forgot the whole reason I'd put myself out here. I was looking at all the things that were going wrong instead of looking at what I could control. What would I shout to myself from the balcony right now? In the end, the pain, the fatigue, the tiredness wouldn't matter. They would all fade with time. What mattered was that I gave everything I could, knowing that I could look back on whatever I achieved without regrets. This wasn't about breaking a record. This was about life. Part 1. How to build an athlete. Chapter 1. Live to ride, ride to live. On the 22nd of April 2017, I woke in silence under canvas. A drained bottle of beer and an empty packet of Bakewell tarts lay discarded on the grass outside, the remains of my solitary celebration of the last night on the road. I unzipped my tent and peered out to look up and down the bluebell-lined footpath where I'd wild camped. Sunrise cast dappled light through the canopy onto the springtime colours of rural Derbyshire. The roar of my camping stove disturbed the quiet as coffee spluttered through my well-travelled mocha pot. The smell of crisp air and dirt mixed with the aroma of Arabica beans. There I stood, wearing a hoodie and boxer shorts, gazing over a familiar landscape that I hadn't seen in 7 years. Home. Turning on a smartphone that I'd been given a month before, notifications pinged relentlessly. "Around the world in 7 years on a bike," read the BBC News headline. "Leigh Timmis, the man who cycled the world," the title of the BBC video. "Why you're wrong about Iran and 14 other things I learnt cycling around the world for 7 years," printed the Telegraph. My adventure was international news. I completed my morning routine for the last time, packed my tent and pedalled my heavy, worn-out bicycle along the bumpy woodland path back to the road. On my handlebar, a torn paper map with my route marked in fluorescent highlighter pen guided me down increasingly recognisable roads for my last few minutes alone. Helmet-free, wearing beach bum sunglasses, I cruised along in grubby, ill-fitting clothes donated by strangers on my expedition. I looked down at the bike I called Dolly, the steadfast companion who had accompanied me through every country and encounter. Memories of all the roads those wheels had rolled along replayed in my head. In a small village just outside the city, a gathering of 30 or so cyclists had formed to meet me.